crimes and aggression can be easily explained as the cause of fake historical justice, because only few people will check whatever it's true or not.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Center, an NGO Euro-Atlantic course, and I'm your host, Miroslava Yaremkiv. In Putin's first interview with a Western reporter since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine began 2 years ago, the Kremlin handpicked Tucker Carlson, a former Fox News host turned online commentator. The reason is obvious. Carlson has characterized the Russian-Ukrainian war as a border dispute, called on Americans to cut off multi-billion aid packages to Ukraine, and compared Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to a rat and a pimp. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the 2-hour interview full of lies, historic manipulations, and just plain nonsense, and we'll try to provide context to debunk Putin's insane claims that try to justify Russian aggression against Ukraine. If you want to learn more about the subject, please continue watching this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our videos in the future. In a talk with Tucker Carlson, Putin uttered sentences about the past. On Putin's logic, leaders anywhere can make endless claims to territory based on various interpretations of the past. That undoes the entire international order, based as it is upon legal borders between sovereign states. In his conversation with Carlson, Putin focused on the 9th, 10th, and 11th centuries. Moscow did not exist then. So even if we could perform the wishful time travel that Putin wants and turn the clock back to 988, it could not lead us to a country with a capital in Moscow. Most of Russia's present territory is in Siberia. Europeans did not control those Asian territories back then. On Putin's logic, Russia has no claim today to the territories from which it extracts its natural gas and oil. Other countries would, and Russia's national minorities would. Candidate of historical sciences Ihor Stambol will debunk only a few of the lies Putin uttered in this 2-hour-long interview.
Putin, apart from all his psychological traits that make him a typical Russian character, we can call it hopnik, is also a great, as we see, historiophile. By and large, when a politician has nothing to justify his actions with, he has to turn to history and distort something in his own way. The technique is not new. For example, Mussolini appealed to the history of Roman Empire and Hitler to the kings of the Crusades era and some other publications about the Aryans. Crimes and aggression can be easily explained as the cause of fake historical justice, because only few people will check whatever it's true or not. The very dictator's authority makes you believe, because can someone who is trusted by millions lie? But he does, and is not ashamed of it. In general, the history of so-called Russia, or rather Muscovy, is the territory around where Kremlin was called until the 18th century, is as much related to Kievan Rus as Romania is to Roman Empire. Try to imagine modern Romanians starting a war with Italy to regain their former metropolis. But no, Romanians realize that they belong to the Dacians and build their own identity on it. And Putin and his supporters don't want to admit the obvious fact that building their identity on the historical myth of Rus is the wrong way, because Ukraine, that is the real historical territory of Rus, does not belong to them anymore. Therefore, it would be worth looking for the roots of Russian statehood in the Mongolian Golden Horde or Finno-Ugric tribes. Where does Putin lie when he resorts to historical articles or lectures? Firstly, he repeats the propaganda message from the time of Romanov Empire, that after the Mongols conquered Kiev, Ukrainian territory lost their subjectivity. Allegedly, the territory where Moscow is now, became the center of Rus. But he simply doesn't notice the Galicia-Volhynia Principality or the Kingdom of Rus, which existed more than 2 centuries and had its own kings. That is in the city of Halych, not far from modern Lviv, there was a king who received a crown from the Pope and called himself the King of Rus. But Putin simply does not mention him. Interestingly, when Rus Ukraine had its kings, the territory around Moscow was an ordinary vessel of the Golden Heart. Secondly, Putin himself has got confused in lies about the name Ukraine. Now he says it comes from the word Okraina, outskirts of Muscovy, then from the Okraina, outskirts of Poland. In fact, like in many other nations, the name of the country came from the word which means some territory or land in Ukrainian it sounds like cry. Another lie is that Ukraine was invented in the Austrian headquarters during World War I. Indeed, at that time, the separation of Ukraine from the Russian Empire was supported by the Central Powers, but it was based on the aspirations of the Ukrainians themselves, which was expressed in dozens of political works of Ukrainian leaders of the 19th century. It is interesting that Putin mentions those leaders, but emphasizes that they always advocated that independent Ukraine must be in friendship with Muscovy. The truth is that Ukrainian thinkers believed that there should be good neighbor lines with Moscow on equal terms. And they also emphasized that it can only happen when Moscow is democratic and liberal. Being as dictator, Putin cannot remember this, of course. His claims about the commonality of the Ukrainian language and culture with those of Moscow are also an absurdity when even Putin himself does not actually believe in. He lies about the percentage of common vocabulary in dictionaries, saying about 90%, because in reality it's slightly more than 60. And culturally, if we compare our national costumes or Christmas carols, which Russians simply do not have, everything will become clear. Other commonalities mentioned by Putin, such as family and economic ties or shared historical events, are nothing more than Kremlin's colonial and assimilation policy, and of course, usual manipulation. Putin's claims over the southern part of Ukraine based on the argument that these lands were won back from Turkey by Russian Empire are absolutely similar to Putin's phrase that Russia would have won the war against Hitler on its own, and with this mean without Ukrainians.
Everyone who does not fit Putin's neat story, Russia is eternal, so Russians can do whatever they want, has to be removed. First from the narrative of the past, and then from those counted as human in present. On Putin's logic, it does not matter what people believe or how people understand their own past. It is he who decides which souls are bound to which other souls. Other views have no place in nature because they arose from events which in his story should never have happened. His view must govern the past, which requires violence in the present, genocide. Our next expert will weigh in.
The traditional of the Russian history narrative regarding Ukrainian history date back to the age of Finno-Ugric rule. It is precisely this period that Ukrainians' northern neighbors entered at the starting point of their own history exercise. In general, the tendency to ascribe to once the past of the other nation is characteristics of all imperative ideologies. Russia is a good example here. It presents a kind of fairy tale or lion visions of history there. The narrative are always portrayed as good, while the other lion are depicted as an emanation of ill. The contrast belongs to the intellectual achievement of science theoretics of the 19th century, when the ideals of a nation was just being formed. Such a perspective productions the polarization of lives. They evolved for shapes divided into black or white.
You've been watching a special project by Ukraine Media Center and Euro-Atlantic course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!